The truth about Airbnb in Los Angeles is brutally simple. It didn't collapse because the community demanded protections, or because housing needed to be saved, or any of the feel-good slogans the city likes to parade around. Airbnb was throttled because enormous, well-organized business interests lobbied the city to make short-term rentals functionally impossible for normal people. LA's home-sharing ordinance, the one that technically legalized Airbnb in 2019, was written with surgical precision to eliminate the exact kind of everyday hosting the families relied on. The city pretended it was opening the door when in reality it slammed it shut. You could only host in your primary residence where you lived more than 6 months a year. You could only list one property. Rent-controlled units were banned outright, even if they were beautifully maintained. And even if you were allowed to host, the city capped you at 120 days per year or less unless you paid for a special extended permit, which came with its own hoops, fees, and enforcement threats. Before these rules, STRs existed in a messy gray zone where the city quietly tolerated them because demand was high and everyone knew the economy benefited. When the ordinance arrived, it didn't clarify anything. It criminalized almost everything. But none of this came from some organic, concerned grassroots uprising of residents. It came straight from the organized muscle of LA's biggest players. Unite Here Local 11, the political powerhouse representing tens of thousands of hotel and restaurant workers, had been attacking Airbnb for years, positioning it as a threat to union jobs and painting every rental as a rogue hotel, even when the hosts were just normal people with normal mortgages. Advocacy groups like LAANE published long, dramatic reports claiming Airbnb was driving the entire housing crisis, despite the fact that long-term supply shortages and massive institutional acquisitions were already destabilizing the market. Coalitions like Better Neighbors LA, stacked with hotel-aligned voices, hammered the city to eliminate illegal STR operations and shut the door on anything resembling vacation rentals. And hovering over all of it, the National Hotel Lobby kept the pressure on, pumping money into state houses and city halls across the country to choke Airbnb wherever they could. When LA later introduced a requirement that both hotels and STRs obtain police permits, the entire package was literally constructed with input from Unite Here, the same union that had been pushing for years to eradicate short-term rentals in the first place. When you strip away all the PR varnish, the pattern is obvious. This wasn't policymaking, it was protectionism dressed up as public virtue. And while all of this political maneuvering was happening at the 30,000-foot level, the damage on the ground was real and personal. My wife built a legitimate, hard-working Airbnb co-hosting business, the kind of small, operations, heavy work, boots in the ground work that actually improves the guest experience and stabilizes neighborhoods. She handled the late check-ins, the glitches, the cleaners, the turnover logistics, the Wi-Fi problems, the human friction points that hosting platforms like to pretend magically resolve themselves. Many of her clients were exactly the type of owners who kept neighborhoods intact, families who had moved for work and were renting out their old home to keep it from being sold, or individuals who inherited a property and needed short-term rental income to cover expenses, or small investors with 1 or 2 units, not the Airbnb empire of boogeymen politicians like to hide behind. When LA decided that only primary residences could be rented and non-owner occupied units were basically forbidden, the entire category of clients vanished almost overnight. These weren't corporate landlords manipulating the system. These were regular people using their property lawfully and responsibly, and they were erased in a single ordinance cycle because powerful interests wanted them gone. The disgusting part is that while the city was squeezing small hosts to death, Airbnb itself wasn't exactly a strong partner. Customer service on the platform collapsed. At the same time, the regulatory pressure skyrocketed. The company openly admitted that tens of thousands of complaints were piling up on social media. A study analyzing over 125,000 complaints found that nearly 3/4 were about terrible customer service and almost 1/4 were about scams, meaning 94% of the public problems with Airbnb boiled down to, I can't get help when something goes wrong. That's the ecosystem my wife was forced to operate in, a city treating responsible hosts and co-hosts like criminals, and a platform treating the people who built its entire inventory like disposable liabilities. She dealt with agents reading from scripts, endless handoffs between representatives who had zero authority to solve anything and protections for hosts that, in reality, were just cleverly written escape hatches for the company to avoid paying on damage claims. So not only did the study kneecap her client base, the platform simultaneously degraded the operating environment she depended on. Small operators like her got hit from both sides. In the end, the outcome is exactly what the lobbyists wanted. Most small hosts are gone in LA. Most of the homes they ran are no longer in the market, and the only players left who can handle the legal complexity, the enforcement risk, and the administrative burden are the large institutional operators and the hotel industry that pushed for these laws in the first place. The city gets to pretend it protected neighborhoods. The unions get to brag that they defended workers. The hotel sector gets to eliminate its most potent competitor. And people like my wife, the ones doing the actual, honest, hands-on work, are treated as collateral damage and told to be quiet about it.